are back to talk about episode 4 of My Adventures with Superman. This was another great episode and it moved the story forward a lot. So I'm just going to get right into it. Spoiler warning once again, every time I'm probably going to spoil something. So there's your warning. If you haven't seen episode 4 yet, click away and here we go. So this episode had two key things in it. First was the origin of Dr. Ivo slash Parasite. I don't know if that's going to be one or two people in the future. I'll get into that a little bit later. And Lois might have found out that Clark is Superman. So the episode starts off with Clark, Lois, and Jimmy being given a real assignment for the first time. And they have to go to this high class event where you have to dress up and there's going to be a whole bunch of important people from Metropolis and their job was to get a bunch of quotes about Dr. Ivo. So you would think it's something simple, you just go to the event, ask a couple questions to some people, easy peasy, right? So of course, that's never how things go, especially when you're dealing with a young Lois Lane, right? So of course they get there and she's just dead set on asking all these people about their rumored crimes that they've been committing. And of course, it doesn't go right. Who would just admit to a reporter about the heinous crimes they've committed, whether they actually did it or not? If somebody just comes up to you at an event where you're just trying to chill out and have fun and relax, and they're talking about, oh, is it true that you did so and so? You're just going to be like, what are you talking about? I'm not answering that question or admitting to that. So that's the response that her and Clark were getting the whole time. And things really got interesting when Clark started talking to Dr. Ivo. And this is a different version. Well, I shouldn't say different. It's a young Dr. Ivo. He's like a playboy bachelor type dude, CEO of Amazo Tech. I think that's what it was. Amazo Tech or Amazo Corp. I don't remember the exact name. And if you know DC, you know that Dr. Ivo traditionally creates this robot called a Mazo, and it's an acronym for something I don't remember what it is. So that's where they got a Mazo Corp from or a Mazo Tech. Like I said, I don't remember. And the robot Amazo in the world of DC is a robot that can mimic the powers of any superhero or villain, I guess, that fights it. So let's say Wonder Woman punches the robot or something, then now the robot has Wonder Woman's strength. So it's one of those things where if the robot's fighting the League or any amount of superheroes and they use their powers on it, now the robot has all their powers. And you can guess how that would be a tough thing to take down. So this is a young Dr. Ivo. He doesn't have the Amazo robot yet, but what he does have is a suit called the Parasite suit. And going back to the exchange between him and Clark, Clark went up to him to talk to him, and as he was walking up to Dr. Ivo, he overheard him talking to what seemed like a business partner about how he's broke and basically having a bunch of problems with the company. So obviously, Dr. Ivo doesn't want anybody else to know that, and he tried to say something like, "All right, if you just ignore what you heard, and I'll give you something for your report or whatever," and he offered to introduce him to some women that were at the event, and he actually insulted Lois. He said something about, I think he called Lois gross or something because there's a bunch of these women, right? And they're acting real pretty and stuff like that. And then kind of next to them, Lois was like stuffing her mouth with food or something. So obviously Lois is not that kind of lady, right? And Clark didn't like hearing Ivo say that. So he got mad and started asking him about his rumored crimes and bad things that he had going on. So he got mad and he feels like everybody has been disrespecting him the whole night. And Dr. Ivo goes and gets his parasite suit, right? And to demonstrate the suit's power, he just starts attacking all the guests at this party. So of course Clark has to go change into Superman, and they have a fight. And during the fight, when the tables start turning and it looks like Clark is about to win, Dr. Ivo's suit malfunctions and it causes him to get all deformed and ugly looking. So I guess that was the origin of Dr. Ivo. Because if you look at a lot of pictures of him from the comics, he does look deformed, not like a normal person. He looks all messed up. And after the battle, Clark, Lois, and Jimmy went to go look for this tech that they thought Dr. Ivo had because they saw it beforehand. But then I guess during the battle and the chaos, somebody took all the tech out the building, so there's no evidence of it. So that was one key thing in this episode, the origin of Dr. Ivo, who's a recurring villain in DC. And the other thing is that at the end of the episode, it looks like Lois might have found out that Clark is Superman. So they were trying to figure out who Superman was, and Lois and Jimmy had this article about some flying boy from Smallville or Kansas or something like that. And Clark actually ripped it out of this book that they had, right? So they couldn't find it. And he put it in his jacket. But then later on in the episode, they were outside and Clark gave Lois his jacket. So she's walking around wearing his jacket. And just by chance, she puts her hand in the pocket and feels the paper, takes it out, looks at it, and realizes that Clark is the one that ripped it out of the book. So she puts two and two together and realizes that Clark is trying to hide the evidence of him being Superman and hide those connections. And that's how the episode ended with Lois saying, "Is Clark Superman?" or something along those lines. So I guess next episode we're gonna see if Clark admits that he's Superman or if he still tries to keep this thing going a little longer and comes up with some thing to get himself out of it. So once again, I think this was a great episode. I like the fight between Superman and Dr. Ivo in the parasite suit. And going back to the parasite thing, Parasite in DC is normally a whole different villain than Dr. Ivo. So I want to see if in the future maybe they redo the parasite suit and someone else wears it and it gets stuck on him, and that's how that person gets stuck with the parasite powers. Or if Dr. Ivo tries to wear it again and they just make him Parasite or something. So I'm curious to see that. But again, this was a great episode. It moved the story forward. I was wondering if they were going to keep this thing with Clark hiding his identity from Lois going for a long time. It looks like they might not be. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he admits to Lois in episode 5 that he is Superman, and then that kind of pushes their relationship even forward. And maybe she's mad that he lied to her for a while, but she'll get over it. Or maybe he just keeps it going for a little while longer. So we'll see. It's one of those things that makes you really excited to watch the next episode, like a good TV show does. And that's pretty much it. I can't wait to watch episode 5.